Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
And now we are officially into the NFL offseason. The Vikings offseason started weeks ago, as we've been discussing on this show here. But now we can talk about, now that you've seen the actual Super Bowl blueprint from 2024-25, how can the Vikings do that someday? How can the Vikings hoist themselves one of those footballs on a stump trophies and get us all confetti flying around the Twin Cities here? So I want to run something by you guys here that's just even more evident than it has been in the last few weeks. Is this a hot take today? We also have a 2025 Purple Daily Draft Party announcement. But Judd, let's start our journey at Quick Trip this week.
Let's do that, because guess what? You know what? Super Bowl Sunday is a lot of fun, right? Monday morning you wake up and you're like, oh, it's Monday. What am I going to do? What am I going to eat? What am I going to get to snack on? Oh, my God, my gas tank is near E. Our pets' heads are falling off. Guess what? Sports Dad's here to calm you down and tell you that your stop at Quick Trip is going to take care of all of those problems and more, because guess what? Quick Trip is a convenience store, but it's really a grocery store. It's just so convenient because it doesn't have all of the aisles. You don't have to do all of the work, but you know what? You can basically get everything that you could possibly use and need. And here's the best part. If you don't want to go inside, you don't have to. You just put that app on your phone. They'll bring it right out to you. Declan has been a fan of that for quite some time. So look, when Monday's got you down, when it's got you hustling and hurrying and worrying, Quick Trip, they have the answers in your playbook to get everything under control.
Also, Federated has some answers for you. It's like having a great offensive line protecting you're the quarterback / business owner in this equation. What they do is they put together a plan to stay focused on safety, preventing claims, and risk management, those things that can eat away at your business if you're not careful. And it allows you to stay focused on growing your business. Federated's been around for over 100 years, helping businesses. I mean, they're based in Minnesota, started in Minnesota back in 1904, but now with a footprint all across the United States. So wherever you are consuming this as a business owner, go to federatedinsurance.com and find a full list of industries they specialize in. Federated Mutual Insurance Company, where it's our business to protect yours. Real quick here, before we get to is this a hot take, we even may have a mock. There's some good juicy mocks here this morning. I would like to shine a light on the Philadelphia Eagles' last 5 drafts. So obviously, we've been focused a lot on free agency. The Vikings have top 5 cap space. They nailed free agency last year. We have picked apart the 2022 draft, I think, for the better part of the last 3 years since it happened. But boys, the Eagles decimated the Chiefs last night in the Super Bowl. Here are the players they've drafted in the first 2 to 3 rounds of the last 5 drafts. Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, first and second round last year. They just remade their secondary, and Cooper DeJean is pick-sixing Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. 2023, Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith. So that's when they said, yeah, we need to revamp our trenches here because we're getting a little long in the tooth. We're losing some guys to free agency. The year before that, it was Jordan Davis, Cam Jurgens, and Nakobe Dean rounds 1 through 3. 2021, Devontae Smith, Landon Dickerson, and Milton Williams, who's set to be a free agent defensive lineman, in the first 3 picks. Kenneth Gainwell was the 5th round pick. And then Jalen Hurts was the quarterback they drafted in 2020. I don't know that we've seen a better 5-year run of first, second, third round picks in my life in the NFL in terms of drafting success. So, if you're the Vikings, free agency, awesome. Start there. Nail your first round pick. Maybe pick up a second or third round pick along the way. And then stack 4 drafts together. Starting with J.J. McCarthy, Dallas Turner, by the way. Have that be your first one. Yep. Nail another one. And then nail 3 more drafts in a row. And then we can talk about being on the Eagles level.
This is why, so again, this is all going to trace back, or it starts with one thing, 2022 draft. This is why you don't get cute. The 12th pick in the 2022 draft belonged to the Vikings. They traded back. Now, we have talked a lot about Kyle Hamilton, the safety, who went to the Ravens at 14. But who went 13? Jordan Davis went 13. And yes, he had the issue with he was involved in the racing that I believe a person was tragically killed in Georgia for or because of. So, yes, there were red flags. But going into that draft, a lot of people talked about this is the type of guy that teams can use. Like, this is the type of guy who you can plug in and he's going to be effective. And sure enough, it turned out to be accurate. So, Howie Roseman is the Eagles GM. And it's my humble opinion that in all the talk about this team, he does not get enough credit. He has built two rosters now that have won Super Bowls. This is exactly right. Like when you look at his draft, free agency is a great way to supplement your roster, but you cannot build it that way. The Vikings proved the supplement part if you hit on every one of them, which is tough. But if you look at how the 2024 Eagles were constructed, you got two things. The draft, which is the anchor, the spine of their franchise, and free agency, which they were successful in. That's how you build a championship team. And you know what? When you look at the lines, right? The offensive and defensive lines, where the Eagles did not blitz once on Sunday, which is the most incredible statistic I think I've ever seen. But when you look at the anchor of those two things, so much of that has to come through the draft.
Look at also like how, yes, their lines are built awesome. And Jalen Hurts is a badass. Like I still don't think he gets nearly enough credit. He just won a Super Bowl. He's been to 2 in the last 3 years. And this year he averaged like less than 200 yards passing a game. Now he had Saquon, who was just an absolute fiend. But they still have incredible playmakers, obviously, and Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, who's also a freak of nature. Like they've built in the trenches. They've hit on the drafts. They have a great quarterback. All this scheme, like, right? Like if you put Jalen Hurts and Saquon and Devontae and A.J. Brown, like, oh, look at all these great weapons. It kind of reminds you sometimes of, well, look at the Vikings. They have Jefferson and Addison and Hawkinson. And if they could figure out their running back, they'd be there too. Like they have built just an incredible roster top to bottom that is awesome to watch. And it literally boat raced what has been the best team in the last 5 years in the Super Bowl.
It kind of though, like, yeah, the weapons on the edge. It's funny because like they do have one of the best wide receiver tandems in the league, but it's the awesome set of old collector sports cars that you have in your garage for like they literally just have those dudes in the garage reading books on the sidelines, bored because they're not getting targeted, and then all of a sudden, okay, it's the Super Bowl and the Chiefs are going to try and completely take away Saquon Barkley. So, oh yeah, there's these guys on the edge that one-on-one. Right. And the Vikings have the on-the-edge one-on-one guys, but the Vikings don't have anything in terms of offensive line and running back and even run scheme that would really make you honor it the way that like the Eagles had that game won in retrospect in the prep to the Super Bowl because it was Chiefs had to spend 2 weeks figuring out how do we stop the best running attack in modern NFL football. And to do that, you have to put more guys in the box. It's a numbers game. So you leave the dudes on the outside. Like the Vikings don't have the ability to go back and forth. The Vikings can't score a running touchdown from inside the 20. And like to Dex's point about Jalen Hurts not getting enough credit, as a passer, he's better than people think. He's not like a surgeon. But I think it's 4 years in a row, has scored double-digit touchdowns in the regular season on the ground. Mm-hmm. So you get inside the 10-yard line with an offensive line like that, obviously with a running back like that. But even before Saquon Barkley came along, when it was Jalen Hurts and other dudes, DeAndre Swift or whoever, they would just pound the ball close range, 3rd and short, 4th and short, deep red zone. That's the most unstoppable team of our lifetimes, or at least in the last 20 or 25 years, running the football. So, like, if you're the Vikings, draft, but also if you have to sacrifice at some point in the next couple of years a weapon on the edge like a Jordan Addison or not pay your tight end $15 million a year so that you can have a more solidified defensive front, offensive front, running game, I'm all for that.
In retrospect, too, we now have a complete view of sort of what happened to the plan of the 2024 Vikings in this respect. O'Connell, and we've discussed this before, but O'Connell went into training camp with we're going to be a tougher team. And they had a tougher camp, and they came out of the gates a tougher team. But you can't fake that. And so if your lines are not basically kick-ass players, and not just good players, but I mean literally kick-ass players. Like, they want to take away your will to play. They want to take away your will to live in a world of football. And that's what those lines do. And that's what, if you go back, that's what San Francisco did at one point too. So O'Connell definitely had the right idea of what he wanted, but he just didn't. And this is the thing that was painfully obvious by the end. They didn't have the personnel. They just didn't have it. And you can only ask Brian Flores or Kevin O'Connell with a line to get by for so long before it becomes, okay, that's cool. Do you have the horses? And the reality is, the Eagles had them in spades. Like, they were coming in waves, and the Vikings didn't. And so, like, the next step now is, because I do think the Vikings had the right idea, but I think the next step now is, it's fine to have the right idea. Do you have the personnel to pull the idea off? The answer was no. The question is, how quickly can you get there? Because, you can't now just catch up for 3 drafts in one draft. So that's sort of the question is, how do you work this now? But again, sometimes when you're tempted to trade back, I can get more assets, I'm going to trade back. The reality is, if there's a potential dominant player sitting there at a position that you need, who might have some character flaws, you still should probably take a longer, harder look.
To Phil's point, too, of like the Eagles had this game won in preparation. The Chiefs probably looked at this in a retrospect of how do we stop the run game. And I know we love playing this game all the time on Purple Daily. If I were to tell you that Saquon Barkley would have 25 carries for 57 yards, that will be his line. Do you think the Eagles win the game? Now, I don't think it would be certain the Chiefs win because the Eagles are still pretty good. But Saquon, who was a factor in the passing game, he caught some passes yesterday. But they took away Saquon from the ground perspective, right? Like, he didn't have a good day on the ground, and the Eagles still slashed them, like for 300-plus yards. Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown getting balls down the sidelines. Like, the Chiefs, in retrospect, held Saquon in check. It didn't matter. And it wasn't even close when you saw the results on the field.
But the real question becomes, like the question should have been, what do the Eagles do defensively? Like if you told me that Mahomes was going to get sacked that much, if you told me that the Eagles were not going to have a Vic Fangio blitz dialed up, like if you told me that, I'd say, oh, okay. Like at the end of the day, the question was not what did Philadelphia do offensively. The question was, what were they going to do? Because that's what I didn't see coming.
The Fangio thing, man, just kind of, the Vikings tried to go dollar store Fangio in 2022.
I've got that in my notes.
Donatel version of Fangio.
Dollar store Fangio. Hey, there's a quarter. There's a Vic Fangio defense for a quarter. Let's buy it.
Look at these sour cream chips. They're the dollar version. They're so good.
True.
It's like when it's like that Shasta soda, or you're looking for it's a little cheaper than Dr. Pepper or whatever. Or when they have like the generic medications or something, Yeah, that's. And by the way, Lewis Seen gets a ring, doesn't he? Is Lewis Seen on like the practice squad?
Is Nick Muse on the team as well?
Is he? No,
I know they've like sent out the inactives yesterday, and I did see Lewis Seen's name for Philly, so he was inactive. But yes, I mean he still gets one.
The ultimate.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Nick Muse was. So the Vikings cut him in December.
Somebody tweeted out that he was with them, but I didn't confirm. So
okay. But I think just to put a bow on this, and we'll have plenty more thoughts on the actual Super Bowl on Purple Daily NFL Takes, our new weekly NFL spinoff of Purple Daily. We're going to drop that today. But yeah, I think my final thought on this for now, from a Vikings perspective, is not every 14-win team is equal, and the Eagles are a great example of. Yeah, the Vikings and the Eagles have the same record in the regular season. But as you watch those games, and even point differential wasn't that far off. It was like the Eagles were like plus 160, Vikings were around plus 100, whatever they finished. And I think there was a lot of people like, well, it's the 14-win Vikings team. You got it. The Vikings should be on that level. When you actually watch some of these teams play, and the Eagles, number one example, there is a difference in the way that the Eagles go about their business. So, but the Vikings kind of popped up a year earlier. It was supposed to be a transition year. So I think everything was house money, winning 14 games. It's a testament to the coaching staff, both Kevin O'Connell and Brian Flores, that they were able to take a roster that was nowhere near the level of Philadelphia's roster, get them to 14 wins, and get them to be a threat to potentially make a run in the NFC playoffs. But now that you actually see the real number one team in the NFL and the team that's in your conference ahead of you, now you have something to actually tangibly strive for. But yeah, not quite the finished product that maybe the 14 wins would have suggested for the Vikings.
I think Detroit, and in this case, Philly, gives you the perfect blueprint, though. Like, you've got it now. You've got the blueprint. Because you got a lot of good things. But, you just don't have the physicality. Like, you can, again, defensively, Brian Flores is a mastermind. He can run all these games. It's great to watch, right? But until you can actually get that type of push, and for 4 quarters, it just kept coming, you're going to lag behind, which to me is ironic, because if we go back to the second round playoff loss in 2019 against San Fran, the same conversation applied then too. The same conversation applied, which is if you play the Detroits of the world, or you play the Philadelphia, or at that time the Niners, up front, you are going to get your ass kicked. Like that loss in San Francisco that day was because the Vikings got punched in the face, and it didn't end. They were back into the corner of the ring, and there was nothing but haymakers. So it goes back to that.
Yeah. Hey, did the Chiefs' offensive line performance make you a little more hesitant on potentially giving $20 million a year to Trey Smith as a right guard?
I put in my notes, I think he might have lost a couple of dollars there. I don't think it's going to be devastating, but it did it definitely gave me pause. It definitely gave me pause. But here's the bigger thing. Did it give me more pause about Trey Smith, or did it give me more pause about, again, and we've done our blueprint exercise for the 2025 Vikings twice now, or did it give me more pause about what you're going to address first? Like, they both need to be addressed. But you can't help but watch that interior of that Philadelphia line and say, oh, hold on a second here. Right?
Yeah, I agree. I don't think Trey Smith became a terrible right guard overnight. Just like Patrick Mahomes is still one of, now we maybe have to just slow our roll on crowning Mahomes and Andy Reid and best quarterback, best coach of all time.
I love these conversations now.
The NFL always has a way of kind of just like, let's pump the brakes a little, come back to earth. It's a very humbling league.
Yes.
But yeah, even the best $20 million, which he's going to become, call it $18 million if his value went down because of one game. Even the best dudes can get beat by a great defensive line and 4-man pass rush like that.
Question off that though, Phil. After watching that, so the Vikings have a lot of good things, and I think that they are a good team. That being said, how far away do you think that they are? Because you can't you can't get yourself to where Philadelphia is by next year. Like,
yeah, I mean, very, very clearly, the Vikings tackles hold up offensively with almost any tandem in the NFL, and the Eagles have good tackles too. But if you're just comparing to the Eagles, the Vikings are 3 offensive linemen short easily, like left guard, right guard, center. They are below where the Eagles are at. Running back is a massive gap. You have one of the great running backs of the modern era. And we'll have to see. I mean, J.J. McCarthy is likely to step in at quarterback. Jalen Hurts performs really well in big spots. He played his ass off 2 years ago in the Super Bowl. You could argue he was the best player on the field 2 years ago in the Super Bowl. He's an automatic first down from close range with the tush push and even just with their running scheme. And then secondary, so that's just offense. Defense, the Vikings have a very well-coached, well-schemed defense.
Yep.
But it's not on the level. The fact that Philadelphia can get that kind of pass rush on a weekly basis with minimal blitzing, and then they get to keep an extra guy or two back in coverage. And then when you do make a risky tight window throw, you got dudes who can jump in and pick it. Now, the Vikings led the league in interceptions, so I don't want to take too much away from the Vikings defense. But, yeah, it is like roster for roster, it's a huge gap. But, again, the fact that the Vikings coaching staff got 14 wins out of this roster is a really good sign for what's to come if they can close the gap roster-wise. So, okay, we're gonna do a little is this a hot take action that's going to spin us into the crazy news cycle from the weekend. So many different Vikings-related and Sam Darnold-related reports. But we have breaking Purple Daily news. We would like to announce that the 2025 Purple Daily Draft Party, the 4th annual Purple Daily Draft Party, presented by Standard Heating and Air Conditioning, will take place again Day 1, Night 1 of the NFL Draft, Thursday, April 24th, 7 p.m., returning to the Fillmore in Minneapolis, where we had a blast with you guys last year. Tickets are available at 10 a.m. Central Time on March 10th. So bookmark this website, scorenorth.com/draft, scorenorth.com/draft for all information. But general admission and VIP tickets are available at 10 a.m. Central Time on March 10th. We're back at the Fillmore, where we had just an amazing time while the Vikings drafted J.J. McCarthy last year. And maybe people will be just as excited when they draft a 310-pound monster defensive tackle after trading back 3 picks to 27 or something. And by the way, we will have last year, for 4 hours, we didn't have, even without volume, we didn't have the draft coverage nationally on TV. We were your guides, and it was a blast. But we will have the ESPN or NFL Network draft coverage on mute on TV, so you can, if you want to watch that and have us kind of be your background noise inside the Fillmore while you drink some beers. That's one tweak we will make based on everyone's feedback. But yeah, we're pumped to be back at the Fillmore Thursday, April 24th, 7 p.m. 10 a.m. Central Time on March 10th is when tickets go on sale, boys.
You know what that calls for, right? That calls for a little flag wave.
Oh, no.
Yeah, here we go.
I don't know if you were contractually...
I'm starting to train. No, see, I start with this flag. It's
high
training.
Maintenance flag waver over here.
Yep, it's training. And then by draft night, I'm up to the big flag.
Okay.
Because you can't just
take
pick
a couple
that up
months off. And
you
then...
can't do that. Like you've got to train.
Yeah,
to wave the big flag.
I feel like, though, you should be prepping, to work yourself up to the big flag in your preparation. You should be going to sleep with the big flag. You should be waking up, taking out Stella with the big flag, going down the steps, Yeah. I think you're actually, you're setting yourself up for an oblique injury if you're used to waving that
Rocky.
little one.
It's true.
Yeah.
Like Rocky trained.
Chase some chickens
in Russia
while holding the flag.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Dex.
Climb a mountain in your
flag.
in your boots with the flag. Yeah. Don,
I'm afraid. I'm afraid, Don.
Hey, Roku was the TV of choice last night in the Mackey household while we watched an absolute beatdown in the big game. Roku is America's #1 TV streaming platform, and now they offer a new line of smart TVs made by themselves. Roku, great for sports viewing. Football season just ended, obviously, so it was great for football season, but there's all kinds of other sports. You got basketball season, hockey season. Once in a while, I might fire up a little golf tournament. No better TV to watch sports on than the brand new Roku Pro Series 4K TV. We have a 65-inch one in our living room right now. Love it. Roku.com to learn more, or shop at a retailer near you. And a shout out to Standard Heating powering Is This a Hot Take today, Dex?
That's right, our friends at Standard Heating. Shout out to Standard Heating. Old Dex tweets is trying to finalize if he can buy a house. And let's just say the furnace in the house, I don't know what's going on with it. Luckily, I have people that do know what's going on with it. My friends at Standard Heating can help me out with that. They also came out to my rental property this last week, too, to take a look at that one as well. That's right. So if you're a renter, all good. They can help you take care of it. Go to standardheating.com to learn more and book that appointment to get that HVAC and furnace working appropriately. Shout out to standardheating.com for helping us out at Purple Daily.
Okay, Judd, you've got this one for us today here. Is this a hot take? You will throw out a take, and then we determine if it is a hot take or not.
Yes. So going back to what O'Connell said on Thursday, got coach of the year, of course, was asked extensively about Sam Darnold and the quarterback situation for the Vikings. Is this a hot take? The Vikings have agreed not to franchise Sam Darnold. He is just going to become a free agent. Let me present evidence of why I think this. Here is a quote from O'Connell that I think he gave. It might have been on the conference call with local reporters after he won the COY on Thursday, okay? O'Connell said, quote about Darnold, he's earned the right to explore what it means to be a Pro Bowl quarterback, a 28-year-old guy who played pretty darn well. We're not the only team in the league that believes that. Sam knows how we feel about him, what this thing is all about. We'll have great dialogue and make sure whatever happens that it's the best for Sam. I think they're going to allow him to walk.
So your hot take is that you think that that this is already a signed, sealed, done agreement, and
Yes.
there is no room for a little I don't know if it's tampering at the NFL Combine, but some conversations over bourbon with friends who are general managers and agents, et cetera. There's no room for
I think the only
any wiggle room of franchise and tag.
Right. I think the only room would be is and this is not going to happen, but let's just say hypothetically in a different world that Sam comes back and says, I desperately want to play here. I'll take whatever you give me. I love it here. Then I think they would take him back with the agreement that there is a very good chance he could be the backup quarterback. I personally do not believe that's going to be the case. I think that he is going to cash in. I do not think it's going to be, though, with the Vikings franchise tagging him and trading him. I think it is signed, sealed, and delivered that he is just going to become a free agent and have his choice of a few teams. And the Vikings will say, thank you, we appreciate your service, and that will be it.
I mean, I feel like it's a little I'm going to say your take is a little lukewarm, and that it feels like front office malpractice to make that decision now without all the information. And we're going to get to Monday Vikings news here in a moment, but there's all sorts of, dude, you got like the Raiders, there's some buzz about the Raiders. There's some buzz about the Titans. Maybe they'll trade out of the number 1 pick, collect a bunch of draft capital because they don't love the quarterbacks, or maybe they'd rather draft is it the Penn State defensive edge rusher? Like, there's a market there for Sam Darnold, and I feel like you should give it at least a few weeks before the franchise tag deadline isn't until March 5th. So you've got like a month to play with here, 3 or 4 weeks to play with, to figure out, okay, if the Raiders are really interested and the Steelers are really interested, why don't we facilitate that bidding war by franchise tagging him and then going to those two teams and saying, hey, if you want Sam Darnold, you work through us. You give us a 3rd-round pick. We give you Sam Darnold, and Sam can be part of it too. Hey, Raiders and Steelers, which do you prefer? And then let us take it from here. But yeah, I mean, Kevin O'Connell kept talking about he's going to break the bank in free agency, and he didn't say it exactly like that, and that he deserves to be a free agent. So I can't imagine that was an agreed upon thing 9 months ago, though. They brought him in, and
no way.
So if it wasn't agreed upon 9 months ago, and if he plays his way into something valuable that could get you a 3rd-round pick or a 2nd-round pick back, why would you renege on that if you're the Vikings?
Because my thought is this: if there is a team, so if the Vikings stage a bidding war, and Sam like let's say it's the Steelers, Titans, Raiders, and let's say Sam's like, I want to play for Vegas. I don't want to play for the Steelers. And the Steelers are like, okay, we'll give you a 3rd-round pick. And the Raiders say, you know what? If he hits the market and he wants to play here, we're not going to give up a draft pick. And Sam's like, well, I don't want to play for the Steelers. That gets to be a little bit dicey then. That's my point.
Because ultimately he doesn't have a no trade, but but he also can refuse to sign a certain contract.
Right.
With
And then it's going to get like if Sam doesn't give a damn, like if Sam's like, I'll play on Mars, I don't care as long as I get paid, that probably opens the door back up. But like if you are the one team that he wants to go to, and that team's like, why would we give you something? He does not want to be traded to the Steelers or Titans. Let's just wait. Like, we can pay him. We'll pay him. I think that's where this feels to me like it's an end of the summer fling, and it's going to end well. It's going to end well. It's not going to be, there's not going to be a breakup here that's going to be dicey. They're going off to college. Everybody knows the price of poker. So that's why it feels to me like O'Connell is almost facilitating. You did us a solid. I get a lot of credit, but go, be free. Fly away, Sam Darnold. Fly away.
Yeah, and I'll say, too, that if they do let him fly away and go off to college and
be free,
experiment with other teams, then they're still going to get, most likely, a comp pick of some kind in 2026.
Yes.
Now, it kind of depends, like, everything that happens in March and April of this year free agency-wise goes into an equation for how much value did you lose versus bring in, but that's why the Vikings brought in a bunch of free agents last year, and because Kirk Cousins was a $45 million per year 4-year signing with the Falcons, that was like the most weighted thing in the equation, and they got a 3rd round comp pick out of it. So you'll have to wait a year to get that draft pick. But if it's kind of between, hey, you don't want to like do him the wrong way, and you're not talking about a 1st and a 2nd here. Right. Can you wait a year to get that 3rd round comp pick? Okay. And also, most importantly, because you could franchise him and he could, maybe the market kind of fizzles, or, we'd rather have Kirk Cousins for $1 million, and Aaron Rodgers is available. We'll take him for a year. Right. And maybe the supply and demand is different than you thought a couple weeks ago. He could just like agree to run it back 1 year, $40 million, sign that tender, right? I don't think that would happen. But that is a risk that you take on when you franchise someone. So by letting him walk and fly away, to Judd's point, you do free up officially $40 million to go spend on defensive tackle, right guard, whatever it may be.
Yep, exactly. So I just think that this is I think O'Connell's culture, for better or for worse, is to do something like this. Like I could certainly see, Crazy saying, hold on a second here. Let's try to make a trade. And I could see O'Connell pushing back and saying, no. Like, I think O'Connell loves this whole thing. I think he loves the QB rehab school. And if you start to play with those guys, though, and then like, well, if you're successful, we own you. I think it creates some
stay in school, kids.
I think it creates some issues. So I feel like O'Connell basically on Thursday night, aside from the erroneous reports on Twitter, I think he very much spelled out this is going to end well, and we're not going to like make this something it's not.
Yeah. Okay, there is more. There's some juicy reporting. Maybe it's educated speculation from plugged-in national reporters regarding Sam Darnold here. But one thing on Aaron Rodgers to throw at you guys here. We'll get into the Vikings news section of the podcast here today. So Jay Glazer came on among a bunch of different national reporters kind of tiptoeing around the Aaron Rodgers situation that, they're still evaluating. Like all the reports throughout the day to that point were the Jets are kind of evaluating. They may be leaning towards saying goodbye. And Jay Glazer jumps on in the middle of French Quarter at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon and says, I can tell you that the Jets flew Aaron Rodgers out to New Jersey and told him face to face, we're not bringing you back. We're going to cut you
it's like
in
the Sopranos.
March.
Hey guys, what's up? Oh my God, no!
Yeah.
Bang.
Which, by the way, like, why make me travel? Just
that's why. That's what I'm saying. It's a mob.
Something.
It's a mob hit on Rodgers.
It's ridiculous. But Jay Glazer had it, and so Aaron Rodgers is going to be available in March. And there was a time 3, 4, 5 years ago on this show when the rumblings in Green Bay started. Rodgers isn't happy, and then they drafted Jordan Love, and And there was a time on this, maybe not this show, but like the Mackey and Judd radio show back in the day, where we said, man, could you imagine Aaron Rodgers coming in here just like Brett Favre did, but finishing the job that Brett Favre couldn't in 2009 and sticking it to those fans, stealing one of their great players in franchise history and winning a Super Bowl in purple? If he becomes available in March, 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers, where are you guys at on that idea compared to maybe 3 or 4 years ago?
Completely out. I'm completely out. When we talked about this, we did not know a lot about him too. And this has nothing to do with his politics. It's his personality. He's a divisive influence. He's what they call a clubhouse cancer in baseball. And I keep seeing this. Well, his teammates seem to like him. I got a question for you folks. How many times have you seen now reports that a starting quarterback, especially one who's influential, is hated? Like Kirk Cousins. Everyone loved Kirk, right? Aaron Rodgers. Everybody loves. Okay. At some point in time, can we understand that it does nobody any good to say, that guy's an a-hole? I don't like him at all. So, but I'm completely out. I have zero, and more importantly, I think Kevin O'Connell, completely out. Like,
I think Aaron would probably love to find himself in a situation this. But
he would. But if you look at, like O'Connell has a very couple of specific types. Young guys, McCarthy, or old guys who want to get better. Aaron is Aaron. He's not going to change. He's going to tell Kevin by week 5 what's what, right? Kevin O'Connell doesn't want to work with that. He might have had faults, but Kirk Cousins, I think, had a desire to improve himself, and he did it. So, like, Kirk and Aaron, I would not compare them personality-wise at all, as far as that goes. So, my interest in Aaron Rodgers, and I did see a bunch of tweets about, hey, it'd be great if he was a Viking for a year, is -5. I got no interest.
Stay far away. Stay far, far away from 12. I want nothing to do with this. The culture they're building, I think he's the antichrist of that. I don't think he's anywhere close to what they're trying to do here and the culture they're trying to establish. I know it's a buzzword that some people roll their eyes at, but I don't look at Aaron Rodgers as someone that fits in to what Kevin O'Connell wants, not just on the field from a quarterback production, but also off the field and mentoring J.J. McCarthy. It doesn't feel like a fit at all.
God, there was a time I would have fought this battle on this show.
Me too.
And
we all would have.
And because there's a whole like Vikings fan. You're not a true Vikings fan. It's like, dude, people said that in 2009, and that was one of the most fun, memorable years in Vikings history.
Yeah.
But that team did not have. Don't give me Tavares Jackson, because it was determined by that point that he was not the quarterback of the future. That team was in the quarterback abyss. And they had a roster that was ready to win. They had a defense. They just traded for Jared Allen the year before.
Yep.
They had the best running back in the NFL. You had Percy Harvin. You had awesome offensive line, Steve Hutchinson, all these dudes. And they just needed someone to come in here. And when they took a flyer on Favre, too, he had 20 interceptions with the Jets the year before, had arm surgery. So it was kind of desperate. And it turned into be this exciting magic carpet ride. The Vikings aren't desperate at quarterback anymore. In fact, you could make a case that, like, okay, if Favre stitches up the surgically repaired throwing arm, he's probably still a top half of the league quarterback. Turned out he was like a top 3 quarterback once he got healthy in the right situation.
Right.
Aaron Rodgers, and I get that the Jets kind of a chaotic organization, but they had some weapons. They had great skill position weapons. Offensive line kind of shaky. Even if you give him a better infrastructure, I don't think he's a top 15 quarterback in the league at age 40. And the clock continues to tick on him. So I think there's a good chance J.J. McCarthy, if you give both guys the same situation, the same Kevin O'Connell, everything, I think there's a chance that year 1 starter J.J. McCarthy is just better than 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers for quite a bit less money, because Rodgers is still going to sign for some amount of money next year.
And Favre was loved. I will say that. Brett Favre was loved. His teammates, like, Brett Favre was fun. Now he's had some things in recent years that have been an issue, but in the locker room, he was loved. Rodgers is a divisive influence. So like there is no comparing them as far as personalities go. The other thing that's starting to frustrate me is, can we stop looking for excuses not to play McCarthy? Like, I'm seeing all these, like, well, you don't know what's going to happen with the knee, and he's coming back from this, and he's...
Let's find out.
Ladies and gentlemen, he is a top 10 pick. He missed a full year with a meniscus surgery, okay? He didn't have his leg, like, taken off. He had meniscus surgery. It's routine. Like, there's nothing to say, my God, this could be a huge problem, okay? So can we, I feel like we're like, well, who's going to be the quarterback then? And can you get, if Sam's gone, I believe that their plan is this. McCarthy starts, perfect world, Daniel Jones comes back for a year, is the backup. If something happens, he plays. But I feel like we're like, McCarthy's become this, well, be careful, not sure you want to play him. Ladies and gentlemen, the J.J. McCarthy era is here. Like, this is the plan.
Don't get cold feet now, Vikings and Vikings fans.
Yeah, we're about to blast off.
I know
and,
we're like reverting
out.
to our past relationship habits here. No, we got to find out. We need a 1 year random stopgap quarterback.
That's the thing is, it's like, who are you going to get? Could you get Rodgers? Like, okay, if you sign, let's just go down this path for a second. If Aaron Rodgers signs here, he ain't backing up.
No, he's the starter.
Yeah. So now McCarthy is out for another year. Like
the only way in which, like, if you bring in Rodgers, it is you don't want him backing up McCarthy because it's just going to be weird, and he's just a weird, cantankerous personality. But B, to your point, he's going to come in. He would start, and there's two ways that McCarthy would then start: Rodgers injury or Rodgers completely ineffective, and now it gets dramatic and weird, and you have to cut him midseason and.
Right.
And the wheels come off. So,
right.
Yeah.
And on Favre, you wouldn't have brought Favre here. Like if you had McCarthy at that time, these guys have to start.
So McCarthy would have been pretty young back in 2009.
Well, he was like, what, 8?
Probably younger than that.
But really good arm and great
5.
kid.
Yeah.
But the fact is, you bring those guys here to specifically just start. So, like, yes, if this was the Zimmer Vikings, if this was the Vikings of yore, then it would have been fun. In this case, you don't need the headache and the distractions, which that would be nothing. But can you imagine the media here again?
Yeah. I will say this: when he does get cut, I'll put out a poll. And then we can bring this back up in like a month on the podcast here and just see.
I love what you're doing right now.
What the audience.
I love what you're doing, just creating content that's fun.
Well, no, I'm curious if we polled the audience, if it's like 5% or if it's like 40%.
It'll be higher than 5%.
I want to play you guys a clip here from Adam Schefter, who was just one of many. The national guys, man, it's their Super Bowl too, because it's the most eyeballs on these pregame shows. And he was asked about various quarterback situations, free agent quarterbacks, and he said this yesterday.
Maybe the marquee quarterback this offseason is Sam Darnold, the Minnesota Vikings quarterback. The Vikings have said that they'd like to bring him back, but that is not going to be cheap. The franchise tag remains an option, and one team that I would watch with Sam Darnold moving forward would be the Las Vegas Raiders. I think at some point in time, they're likely to have some interest in trying to bring Sam Darnold to Las Vegas. We'll see if they can make that happen.
So for longtime seasoned NFL reporter, former lead Vikings beat writer, Star Tribune sports dad Judd, when an Adam Schefter says, I think the Raiders are a team to keep an eye on, I think they're a team that could get in the mix at some point. Is he just like giving an opinion in that? That seems to me like he's been told, oh, yeah, this is going to be a thing. And then he is putting the information out there. Instead of saying, a source told me, he's softening it by saying, hey, here's what I think. I don't think he's going rogue there.
No, he's definitely got. And look, one, connect the dots. It makes perfect sense. But two, yes, he definitely has been told that. And as we talked about, it makes sense, too. Chip Kelly, who has definitely changed his ways, as an offensive mind in the last 5 to 10 years, is probably a great fit for Sam. Pete Carroll coach, Geno Smith, much like Sam, Jets reclamation project. Sam is as well. But yeah, I think a lot of what we heard this week from the Schefters, the Rappaports, Pelisseros, I think a lot of that comes from discussions. And I think they've got opinions, but they also have an inherent knowledge of what teams are thinking. So, yeah, I don't think that that's a mistake. And again, it is shaping up more and more where Darnold there makes a ton of sense. Like there's a lot of components now that would make him, I think, if we were to go through the potential list of Darnold teams right now, the Raiders to me are definitely at the top as well.
Dan Graziano from ESPN came in with this nugget. He essentially said, watch for the Titans to trade out of the first overall pick and find another avenue to address quarterback. So he wrote, there's still a long way to go until April's draft and a lot of evaluations to make before then. But I've talked to multiple people who think the Titans could trade out of the top pick and look for their quarterback solution elsewhere. That could mean either another shot for Will Levis or adding a young free agent such as Sam Darnold.
Reckless speculation.
The thinking here is that the Titans roster needs are so extensive that unless they're absolutely sold on one of the quarterbacks in the draft as a franchise changer, they're better off seeing what teams would be willing to give up for that pick. If they move back to number 2 or number 3 or even to number 6 or number 7, they could still land a franchise cornerstone player in the first round, get a bunch of draft capital, and be in position to address quarterback in next year's draft if necessary.
All right, my experience tells me this. The grads is being used. The grads is being used by the Titans. and it actually makes sense. If you're the Titans, so I don't think the Titans have decided yet. I think the one conversation that the teams at the very top of the draft are probably having right now is, are any of these quarterbacks like truly a top pick? Or are they a top pick because of the position that they play? So what I think this is I think the Titans are very much trying to deduct what they can do here. And if you say, hey, Grass, come here. And Grass like, yeah, what's up? And they're like, I want to float this out there. We are exploring our options, and we might not use that pick. And look, I mean, there might be a sort of a rich veteran QB environment, right? I think that the Titans are exploring the space because I don't think, unlike the 2024 draft, I don't see like a clear cut, this guy has to be the top QB picked, at least at 1. So I think Graz is, first of all, the reckless speculation, Graz, is phenomenal. It's so keep it up. But I think Tennessee is trying to put as many feelers out there, and this is a very good way to incorporate that.
I wouldn't hate, if you're Tennessee, go get Sam Darnold, guarantee a couple of years, go trade back to like 6 or 7 with the Raiders or the Jets. Let them, if you're not 100% sold on Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, go get a boatload of picks and stack your roster around. And the NFL, I'll throw this one in here too, the NFL Network group of insiders, so Pelissero and Ian Rappaport and maybe a couple others, they kind of conjoined together on this NFL.com article that the Vikings are in an unusual spot with Darnold, a 27-year-old Pro Bowler, and McCarthy, a 22-year-old first-round pick, coming off a preseason knee injury. The focus for the Vikings is constructing the roster in a way that ensures they can put a championship-caliber team around whoever is under center. And just as with Cousins last year, it only takes one team to offer Darnold a contract the Vikings simply don't feel comfortable matching. And they go into explain how McCarthy is ready to begin football drills in the next couple weeks, should be ready to roll for OTAs. The difference between, to me, the Cousins scenario and the Darnold scenario is when the Vikings were deciding on Cousins, they were still 2 months away from drafting anybody. So they knew that they were maybe going to draft a quarterback, but I think they had even more of an appetite. Like, they made a couple offers to Kirk. There's been no offers to Sam at this point. The Vikings had a price point where if Kirk said, you know what?
They did last year. Yeah.
I've made enough in my day.
Right.
You know what? Let's do it for $32 million, guys.
Right.
Let's do it for 32. You guys take the other 15 million or whatever and go make this team better.
Yep.
But like Kirk essentially said, that's not an option. I need to see what my top market value is, and if you want to match it, that's cool.
Yep.
But there was like the Vikings, I think there was some leeway of, all right, I guess like we'll pay him if it's reasonable. I think all of this talk about paying Sam Darnold if it's reasonable, I think it's all BS.
Yep.
I don't think there is a price point. I think they're ready to move into the J.J. McCarthy era, period.
Yes. Everything. Look, O'Connell doesn't tell you the full truth, but he doesn't really lie much. Case in point, when Seifert asked about Daniel Jones before Jones signed, O'Connell could have just lied, but he didn't. He basically said, don't really want to talk about this, and then he left the door wide open, right?
Yeah.
And Seifert walked right through it. So, and on Thursday, I think Kevin O'Connell spelled it out. I really do. And I think he's comfortable with that. And I think in the case of Kirk, O'Connell, and this is just my opinion, I think he had reservations about Kirk leaving. Like, I think he really liked him. I think he had turned him into, Kirk Cousins for O'Connell played really well. Now the playoffs are a different story. But the fact is, I think that Kevin was the one person in the building who was like, do we really want to lose Kirk? And I think that they all said, okay, cool, but there is a price point. On Sam, I'm telling you, it feels like a proud dad, and Sam's going off to college, man. Like there's been nothing about this whole thing that leads me to believe, because, I mean, you've got the new, shiny, brand new, out of the box. I mean, Sam Darnold came from Goodwill. You went to Goodwill and you shined him up, and that's great. And at the end of the day,
now you're at the pawn shop and you've got this thing. So you bought this thing for $8 and now it's worth $10,000.
And next to the Goodwill is Ferrari shop, right? And like now you're looking at the new, and that's McCarthy in their mind. Now they might be totally wrong. I'm not saying that they're 100% right, but in their mind, like they want to develop. And by the way, the new brand new toy is far cheaper. So I'm with you. I think that in the case of Kirk, there was reluctance on the head coach's part to lose him. In this case, I think it's a done decision.
His self-esteem, Kevin O'Connell's, if I could continue the metaphors here, his self-esteem as a football father and his confidence as a football father and his reference points for being a successful football father have to be through the roof compared to where he was a year ago, right? Because, if take a year ago, he was proud of the work. He brought it, first-time head coach. I'm bringing in my philosophies, and I elevated Kirk in some ways as a fourth quarter clutch time quarterback. And that was off the heels of, like, he worked with Matthew Stafford to help win Matthew Stafford's first Super Bowl, but that was really Sean McVay's entire operation. So you're confident, and then you get Kirk, and there's a little more confidence. But now that you've made it work with Sam Darnold too, it's just a lot easier to move on to the next project, the next car. Because I've got all these reference points. To some extent did it with Stafford, and then did it even more with Kirk, and then did it with Darnold. So it's like bring on the next challenge is sort of the.
And one of them was broken, right? Like Sam was broken, Dex.
Yeah. Darnold, Kirk was the oldest, and Kirk was ready to leave the house already. So he did everything he could, left the house, signed a prenup, I hope, with that marriage, and is now all good. Dad doesn't have to worry about that. Sam was the middle child who was always in trouble, needed a little bit of rehabilitation, and now he's joining the military. He's got his life together. He's going to boot camp. He's all good. And now the youngest child, I'm not speaking at all from, any past experience with my family and siblings. The youngest child is the prodigy. He's the one that he can't wait to just mold and put him in the right spot. That's J.J. McCarthy. So it's kind of a fun little evolution to watch.
If you have life metaphors for the Vikings quarterback situation, drop them in the YouTube comments.
You're right.
Yeah.
Exactly. He's exactly right.
Boys, let's do a mock for the road here.
I want a mock.
Presented by Petal Floral, Judd. It's just a few days until Valentine's Day, so if you're out of ideas, we can spark some here.
Well, Sports Dad knows the panic sets in, right? Oh my God, Valentine's Day is on Friday. I haven't gotten a thing yet. What am I gonna do? My wife, girlfriend, mom. Don't forget mom. Okay, here's the first thing from Sports Dad. But by the way, this is a great look at exactly what they have to offer. But don't go cheap at the last moment. Don't go grocery store shopping. The Petal Floral Boutique in Edina is the best place to go. They actually have a Purple Daily special in honor of their favorite show. The Valentine's Day collection includes premium roses and mixed bouquets. Place orders at thepetal.com or give them a call, 612-356-2890. Delivery available in the Western Metro through Friday, by the way. Get 10% off a future order at the Petal Floral Boutique. Use the code word. The code word is Purple Daily. Purple Daily. The Petal Floral Boutique, located at 50th and France in Edina. Guys, don't panic. Don't say, what am I going to do? Listen to the Sports Dad. The Petal Floral Boutique is the place to go. Your wife, your girlfriend, or mom are absolutely going to love the gift from there.
I want a mock!
This is a 3-rounder from The Athletic this morning, now that we have the official draft order 1 through 32.
Nice.
Following the Super Bowl. They've got the Titans taking Penn State edge rusher Abdul Carter. So there's more and more steam about the Titans not going quarterback number 1, which is interesting. The Browns taking Travis Hunter from Colorado, number 2. So quarterbacks are tumbling here. Cam Ward, quarterback Miami, to the Giants at 3. We'll scroll down here. And then that puts Shedeur Sanders right in Las Vegas with the Raiders. So if the draft played out this way, obviously it would mean that Sam Darnold did not sign in free agency with the Raiders. I don't know, maybe he's Steelers, Titans. So that's where the top 2 quarterbacks go. As we scroll down here toward the 24th overall pick, let's just get right to it. Vikings on the clock here, according to The Athletic. And they select, out of Ole Miss, defensive tackle Walter Nolan. Eat your vegetables. It says it's not impossible the Vikings go with a running back here. He lists a couple like Caleb Johnson, for instance. Same time, the Vikings are in a division with the run-heavy Lions and Bears, a Bears team that just hired the Lions' old offensive coordinator. More help over the ball on defense is always needed. And then, with their next pick, which isn't until 97 here, the 3rd-round comp pick, according to The Athletic, the Minnesota Vikings select out of the Ohio State University running back Quinshawn Judkins.
I want a mock!
Thor is adamant that Judkins will not be available come the 97th overall pick, for what it's worth. But defensive tackle and running back with those first 2 picks.
I'm fine with that. Absolutely. Yeah, you've got to build. So if they take defensive tackle with 24 in the draft, you'd probably have to deduct that they took or that they signed a guard in free agency. But
I wouldn't rule out signing a tackle. I wouldn't rule out doubling up on defensive tackle.
Sure.
Know?
But I mean, I think that draft pick now would get a far louder cheer at the draft than it would have a couple of weeks ago. And especially after last night.
Yeah, I almost feel like it's our obligation now leading up to draft night. Because last year, everyone was excited and we fed into getting people excited about quarterback. I think it's time to get people excited about trenches.
The big man that can push the pocket.
315-pound
That's how you're going to win a Super Bowl.
Pass rushing monster. Yeah.
That's how you're going to win.
Yep. So, go to scorenorth.com/draft for the information. Bookmark it, because in a month from today, 10 a.m. Central Time, tickets will be available. It was an amazing, jam-packed environment last year, and we're looking forward to going back to the Fillmore for the 4th annual.
4 already?
How far we've come. Yep.
Wow. It's awesome.
All right, dudes. We've got plenty more thoughts on the Super Bowl and the NFL at large also on your feed today. Purple Daily NFL Takes dropping on the YouTube channel and Apple and Spotify. And also for Wolves fans, Timberwolves playing pretty well recently. A Flagrant Howls State of the Wolves Monday over on that podcast feed and the Score North YouTube channel. For Judd, for Dex, I'm Phil. This is Purple Daily. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.